My name is Stanley Marsh, and I like to make things. I think Americans make their icons. One of the first things I made, which had any public appreciation, was nearly 30 years ago. It was a Cadillac Ranch. The Cadillac Ranch is a monument to the American dream. And the dream of most American boys when I was growing up and Playboy magazine was just being invented was to get in a Cadillac or a car, of any car. And a car represented money. It was the first valuable thing we ever had. It represented sex. It was where you had dates. And it represented getting away from home. And I assure you those were the three things that were on our mind when we were 16. We got a backhoe and we dug the holes with the backhoe and picked them up with their tails up by the backhoe and lowered them down into the holes. And then we held them in place when we poured concrete into the base. We didn't know it was going to be pretty. We didn't know it was going to be popular. We just wanted to make it. People photograph it, they come to see it, they make pilgrimages to it. And best of all, they paint their name on it. Or they scratch their name in the paint with a key or something. So it's a piece of public art, and it changes all the time. It shows Americans know how to treat their monuments. And I can promise you, the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial and the Jefferson Monument would not be so boring and white and ordinary if you just let people with spray cans of paint in to fix them up. It was embraced by the nice people and the inventive people in town. Well, some of the signs are pictures and some of the signs are sayings. And they are diamond-shaped and the same size and same specs as highway signs that are diamond-shaped that give you warnings like curve or low-flying airplane or something. And the signs have messages that to some people are nonsense and to others mean something. My favorite, and the one in my yard, says, "Road does not end." So some of the best signs are put up where there was no permission given. The most exciting, and I can't quite tell how he did it, I don't want anybody arrested, was inside the wire at the Clemens prison. That was tough. And it said, "Mornings are the worst." It was a good sign. They're not political, and they're not religious, and they don't call names. Besides that, there's a lot of signs. One of my favorites says, "I should have kissed her more." The people exist in museums. The Dynamite Museum is the name given to a group of people who joined together to be dynamite and to be a museum. However, the ordinary museum is boring and staid and dull. And you walk in the ordinary museum, and first you get past the guard, and the bulletproof glass, and the docent who are 105 years old and have blue hair and you would not want to kiss. And then you go into a large room which is mausoleum quiet with funny lighting, and there's no smoking, and occasionally there's a very large and expensive frame, and that frame has an oil painting in it, or sometimes there's a sculpture, but there's always a great deal of framing and spacing and arranging of it. Now, the average person can't go in there and decide whether or not they like that painting or not. You're intimidated by the guard and the frame and the mausoleum. If we were simply to cement closed all those museums on a Saturday night, with the people inside of them, with their tuxedos on and their fancy clothes and their jewelry and their martinis, and leave them for future generations to dig up like King Tut was, we would be living a real gift to posterity. We would be leaving the future generations something better than the national debt that the politicians talk about. And if we die out as a species, we would be leaving the spacemen and the ghosts something good to look forward to when they came down here and explored. Barring that, we should explode them, so that the art goes every place and all over town. Art ought to be under the underpasses, in the supermarkets, at the filling station, on the side of the road in the mall where you don't expect it. It ought to come as a surprise. It ought to be where you didn't know it was going to be there. So when you look at it, you make a decision yourself on whether it's any good or not. Well, there's a poem by Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lie, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculpture well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed." And on the pedestals these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my work, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing besides remains round the decay of that colossus wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level sands stretch far away. Now that's my favorite poem because it's about the futility of building monuments. And I build monuments.